We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. First advanced estimates for financial year 2025-26 predict India's GDP to grow at 7.4%. Prime Minister Modi hails NDA-powered Reform Express. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls for global stability at first India-Weimar format meeting in France, eyes to boost ties with Europe. In a weeks-long chase across the Atlantic, US seizes 2 tankers as Trump lays out plans, says Venezuela will buy American goods under oil deal. Europe hit by cold wave and snow chaos, flights cancelled, trains halted, millions affected in Amsterdam, Brussels and other cities. And Australia sails 4-1 Ashes series win, beats England by 5 wickets in the final test in Sydney. And beginning with a positive note on economic front, India's GDP is expected to grow at a rate of 7.4% in the current financial year, up from 6.5% in the year 2024-25. Now, the numbers are especially significant because they reflect increased growth in a fiscal year. The estimates were released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which said the services sector played a big role in the increase this year. The data also revealed that real gross value added is expected to expand by 7.3% in 2026, up from 6.34% in 2025. The economy continued to expand at a faster than anticipated rate in July to September, with GDP growth rising to a 6-quarter high of 8.2% on the back of near double-digit growth in the services sector. While manufacturing and construction are estimated to grow at 7%, the figures are expected to be moderate for agriculture and utility services like electricity and water supply. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the GDP estimates on X. He wrote, and I quote, India's Reform Express continues to gain momentum. This is powered by the NDA government's comprehensive investment push and demand-led policies, be it infrastructure, manufacturing, incentives, digital, public goods or ease of doing business. We are working to realize our dream of a prosperous India, unquote. And for more on this, we have Subhamoy Bhattacharya, senior economic journalist, joining us. Welcome to the studio, sir. My first question to you is that Prime Minister said that India's Reform Express continues to gain momentum. India's GDP growth is actually projected at 7.4%, higher than last year, actually much higher than last year. How significant is this jump in the current global economic climate and considering also India's long-term potential growth?
Basically very significant considering the current global economic climate, which is extremely difficult. So in that circumstance, this sort of a thing to have happened is very, very important. 3 things about this growth rate. First of all, the investment rate has climbed up to over 7%. That is something very significant. The second part is that these are advanced estimates. So these are likely to be revised, and they will be revised when the final figures come out. What I basically mean is that I expect that when more data comes out about the year, I expect these numbers could actually see even a further refinement or further higher.
Right.
And the third part is that our GDP is the base year is being revised, and the revised numbers will come out in February. So when you see that, you'd find a much more interesting pattern coming up. So these are the first points. Yeah.
All right, so the revised numbers would come out in February. But also, sir, the Prime Minister credited reforms like infrastructure investment, manufacturing incentives and digital public goods for GDP growth. Which of these measures do you think has had the most immediate impact?
Again, out here, I mean, what the Prime Minister was saying was absolutely right, that the investment is the biggest thing that the government has done. The fact that the investment climate has been kept up, and the government has been continuously pushing for higher investment by putting larger money. For instance, the current year itself, the total capex is 11.2 trillion. Now that's a huge number to have invested in. Last year, and this comes on the basis of last year, where it was about 10.5 trillion. And the year before. So you can see that there's a consistent push towards investment, and that is showing up. That is essentially providing the momentum for the economy to grow ahead. There are lots of sectors where India needs to grow, and infrastructure. And by infrastructure, we mean a large number of things, right from renewable energy, right from oil and gas pipeline to roads, railways, space exploration. There are so many things that needs to be invested in and are being invested in. The maritime sector, for instance. So overall, that is providing a very welcome demand boost to the economy. And that is where the action is primarily originating on. Along with that, I'll tell you about one thing, which is that inflation has actually been very benign. There are some commentators who are, of course, saying that the inflation has gone too low. But I would say that given the geopolitical condition, the fact that we have a low inflation, a very low inflation right now, provides us the maneuvering space to do much more.
All right, so low inflation, of course, is helping. But Prime Minister also said that the growth outlook is being driven by the NDA government's sustained investment push, as you also mentioned, and demand-led policy measures. Official data showed that strong performance in the services sector remains a key growth driver. Is this momentum sustainable, or does India still need a stronger manufacturing push?
Manufacturing, obviously, we would need the private sector to actually come in big time. This is something that has not happened. But it is but at least in this numbers, we do see fairly substantial in the evidence of the private investment picking up, and that needs to continue. Along with that, the investments being done, but especially in the sunrise sectors, and here I include not just renewable, but also the fact of investment in the electronic sector, semiconductor, electronic components. These are very, very key areas for India to actually be investing in, because they would provide the push that the economy needs. We cannot be pushing investments in sectors which are, well, they're frankly not very, very, important in terms of the fact that they were used to be earlier, but they are not there. Another sector where the government is pushing reform is the MSME sector. The MSME sector, both in the recent export package as well as the earlier steps that have been taken, including rationalization of GST, has benefited enormously. And that, I think, is very important, both from the employment point of view as well as exports point of view.
All right. So as you said, government is pushing MSMEs. How important is the ease of doing business, as the Prime Minister also mentioned, the ease of doing business push in translating policy into the real economic growth on the ground itself?
A lot of work actually needs to be done by the state governments. That is where the ease of doing business really comes in. Two steps that the government has taken, central government, which I think are very salutary. One is the promulgation of rules under the labor code. So that is something that was very necessary, very substantial ease of doing business thing. And I would think that is really, we are going to see the impact of that very soon. In terms of the other ease of doing business, the very fact that the GST tax rates have been rationalized to just 2 is a very big ease of doing business support.
All right. Also, sir, with near double-digit growth in services during the July-September quarter last year, what specific sub-sectors are contributing the most? Also, is India becoming overly services dependent, or is this a natural evolution of the economy we see?
Because this is something that is often debated. Manufacturing, we are trying to push, and we will be getting some further developments on those from that sector. But services certainly is our biggest part of our GDP. It's almost close to 60%. And by services, of course, this time the GDP numbers show that public administration, which is the government-led services, have been a very significant factor. But along with that, you would also see trade, transport, hotels. These sectors have done well. Financial sector has done well. So essentially, the services economy is really pushing ahead. And that is also being led by the fact that private consumption, which had been lagging for a long time, has actually kept up the momentum. It is slightly lower this time from the last iteration. It was 7.2% earlier. It is now 7%, but both basically show that private consumption has picked up, and private consumption largely pushes services sector. So there is a tremendous, what I should say, supportive factors happening each around. As I said, inflation is a very major help in this context, because a low inflation allows people to go in for discretionary purchases, to be able to feel that they can afford more, and that gives a lot of support to the services sector. People can go out for travel, people can go out for eating out, for ordering, and all this sort of things at a large countrywide level is giving a very big sector. I mean, a big push. I mean, imagine the amount of expansion that's happening in our gig economy, for instance, the e-commerce sectors, for instance. That's phenomenal. That is much more large than the scale at which manufacturing is operating now.
So private consumption is linked to the services sector, but also real GVA, if we talk about, is expected to grow to 7.3% in 2026. Does this indicate a structurally stronger economy, or are there risks beneath the headline numbers? In fact, does this reflect genuine productivity gains, or is it largely demand-driven growth?
The genuine productivity gain is obviously happening, especially the fact that the investment in numbers are showing up very strongly, shows that India definitely is pushing for substantive changes, and that is actually showing up. In fact, had it just been a consumption-led phenomena, we would have been our growth momentum would have tapered off much more earlier. Right. Remember, during the COVID times, we did not give much of financial support, like printing extra cash and giving out to people. That helped us avoid an inflationary spiral. The government instead pushed for basically reopening of the economy and managing the demand conditions well. And that has helped. So what we can see is that in 25, 26, and now going on to 26, 27, 4 years after COVID, the Indian economy, instead of slowing, has actually has begun to accelerate. I mean, our growth rate this year is more than last year. So that just shows that the policies have been smart.
All right. So, sir, manufacturing and construction are seen growing at around 7%, while agriculture remains moderate. Should this imbalance be a concern, or what more is needed to push the manufacturing into a higher growth trajectory?
I'll take the agriculture thing first. What has happened is that the agriculture growth last year was something. The value add in agriculture was something like 10.8. Now, on that base, it was very difficult to show for any, I mean, even though we have had very good rains this year, massive crop production, India has now become the largest rice producer in the world. But what has happened is that despite those numbers coming on a huge jump last year, isn't showing up, I mean, doesn't show up as a very big jump. So that is where the statistical anomaly comes in. We have agricultural growth. Instead of looking at 4.1%, it's about 3% this year. But that doesn't mean that the agriculture growth has slowed up. It's simply the massive base from last year, which has led to the fact that the growth this year is looking smaller. On manufacturing sector, yes, the construction sector still needs to get up to speed. And there are lots of things there. Primarily, this is one sector which depends on private investment, because this is construction that is not the construction for just for roads or railways or other things, but it's construction as in real estate, construction in the cities, construction that we see around us. This is one sector where momentum is still needed. There's a lot of problem there in terms of, for instance, the fact that there's a lot of unused or unsold housing inventory in lots of places. And that's primarily because of the fact that the real estate companies have not priced themselves correctly. There are too many luxury homes that have been built, whereas the middle class and the affordable home category has been left unspent, have been left untouched. That is something that needs to be corrected, and that needs that's where the construction weakness is coming through. That's also a sector which provides a lot of employment. So that's a sector that could do with the attention, but not by demand subsidy, but by simply ensuring that the corrections happen in the balance sheets of these companies.
All right. So also finally, I would like to ask you that the Prime Minister has credited reforms, infrastructure, spending and ease of doing business, as we discussed. Which of these reforms has had the biggest impact on GDP growth so far?
Two of those have been very big this year. For instance, in the last budget, Finance Minister has announced income tax cut up to rupees 12 lakh. There's no income tax, and that is a very big change. That has actually put a lot of money in the hands of the people. And this year in October, the GST rationalization has been a very big change. I mean, the impact, as I've been saying earlier, is only now starting to show up in full measure. So throughout this winter, demand conditions have really come up very big time. These two, I would say, and these were basically within the central government's realm. And central government has done it very well in terms of doing the push on these things. The other reform package, as I said, is the labor law, which will the announcement of the labor of the rules under the labor law, which had been in abeyance for a long time. They've just been announced, and those will start showing up their visibility. I mean, they will start becoming visible in terms of pushing growth in the months to come. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us and giving us all that information and analysis for the GDP growth. All right. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
The land of forests, nature's hidden jewel. Jharkhand is a traveler's paradise. Get ready for a sensory extravaganza, complete with ancient traditions and world-class lifestyles, breathtaking scenic beauties and heart-stopping adventure. Thousands of years of faith preserved in magnificent temples, marvels of new age infrastructure.
Can I resist?
An abundance of prehistoric heritage flowing through generations.
I've heard so much about the expertise behind this vibrant Sorai art.
Discover new horizons. Discover yourself. Discover Jharkhand. Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, the United States on Wednesday laid out an energy deal with Venezuela, saying it will partially roll back sanctions to allow the sale of oil products from the country. Now, details are shared in a Department of Energy fact sheet. Came days after Washington captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, leaving his deputy and other allies in charge. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said that the energy deal will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. She also said that the United States is selectively rolling back sanctions on Venezuela.
This was a deal made by the president and his team with the Venezuelan interim authorities. This will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. And Secretary Wright and the Department of Energy are working with the interim authorities and also with the private oil industry to execute on this historic energy deal. That's not only good for the United States, but it's also going to revive the prosperity, the safety, the security of both the United States and Venezuela as well. The U.S. is selectively rolling back sanctions to enable the transport and the sale of Venezuelan crude and oil products to the global market. I will reiterate what the president has said a few times now to all of you, which is that it's too premature and too early to dictate a timetable for elections in Venezuela right now.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has since announced that the interim leaders have agreed to U.S.-managed marketing of 30 to 50 million barrels of crude, repeatedly adding that his country will run Venezuela despite having no forces on the ground. Now, Trump also said on social media on Wednesday that Venezuela will be buying only U.S.-made products with the money they receive from our new oil deal, including potential purchases of agricultural goods, medicine and energy equipment. Meanwhile, Venezuela's state petroleum firm separately said that talks for the sale of crude oil to the United States had begun after Washington's demand for access to the country's reserves following Maduro's ouster. And the United States seized 2 sanctioned tankers today, including a Russian-flagged oil tanker that was in the Atlantic. The second tanker was in international waters in the Caribbean. Well, the Marinera, formerly known as the Bella 1, was empty of oil, but the U.S. says it and the N. Sophia belong to a shadow fleet of tankers used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth wrote on X, the blockade of sanctioned and illicit Venezuelan oil remains in full effect anywhere in the world. The U.S. is escalating its blockade of vessels that are under sanctions and going to and from Venezuela. The White House also said it plans to roll back some of the sanctions Trump placed on Venezuelan oil in 2019 during his first term. Moscow has denounced the seizure of the tanker sailing under its flag and demanded that the U.S. treat Russians aboard properly and permit them to return to Russia quickly. And United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres met Venezuelan permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Samuel Moncada. During their meeting, the Secretary General reiterated his publicly stated position on the U.S. military strikes on Venezuela on January 3rd that led to the forcible seizure of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Guterres expressed the UN's readiness to provide its good offices, including mediation and facilitation, in support of a potential inclusive national dialogue in Venezuela. He reaffirmed the UN's commitment to assisting Venezuelan-led efforts towards a political resolution of the current situation. While Venezuela's Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello announced that the U.S. attack that led to Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro's capture in Caracas left 100 people dead and dozens more wounded. Also, the minister added that Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were injured in the seizure but were recovering. Both were seen walking on their own power during a New York court hearing this week. And for more on this, we have Akshay Dongre joining us. Well, Akshay, how significant is this so-called energy deal which we are hearing with Venezuela? And what exactly will change in terms of sanctions enforcement and oil flows after this?
Well, it is going to be quite significant for the energy market now. The world's largest oil reserve country is opening up, not on its own forcibly by the US, but that's another thing. As far as the legality and illegality of this entire thing is concerned, first the US accused Maduro of of running a drug cartel, and while he always accused the US of planning a conspiracy to steal the Venezuelan oil, it's all coming true. especially at this point in time when the entire focus has overnight shifted from drugs to oil once again, and the companies of the US going full swing to exploit as much as Venezuelan oil as possible. At the same time, targeting tankers of the Russian fleet that were transporting oil, sanctioning countries that are buying Russian oil, while at the same time, themselves abducting a world leader and selling their oil. So the hypocrisy is unprecedented as far as the US is concerned at this point in time, with the country, not, walking the talk that and not practicing what it preaches to the rest of the world, because the sanctions on Venezuela earlier were about drugs, were about Nicolas Maduro, and as soon as the US has gotten some sort of a semblance of control of the Venezuelan oil, so all the sanctions have been lifted so that US can themselves sell this oil, while at the same time reducing the sale of Russian oil by putting sanctions on the Russian oil, and for aggressive actions against a sovereign country, while themselves selling the oil of a sovereign country after abducting their president. So it's quite hypocritical at this point in time, and it seems that the rules, it seems, doesn't apply to the US, and it's clearly showing an example of how might is right in today's world, and whatever the US wants to do and the Trump administration wants to do right now, they are going ahead even without giving a care about the illegalities and the ethics of the action that they are taking.
All right, Akshay, with the US seizing sanctioned tankers while selectively rolling back oil sanctions, a contradiction in Washington's approach, as you mentioned, a hypocritical approach there. What next can be expected?
Well, there are going to be tensions. There are going to be a lot of tensions in the upcoming world, because the way this entire thing has been done by the US is a classic example of how the US has sort of talked about one thing and done exactly the opposite. Talked about democracy, and what it's doing is absolutely imperialistic when you look at it from a third person's perspective. Because be it a sovereign country like Venezuela, be it a country like Denmark, the US is, especially under Trump administration, it's not even trying to hide its intentions of taking over other countries for its own benefit, and it's going to give sort of a precedence where increasingly the bigger countries, the stronger countries, are going to harass the smaller ones for their personal benefit, for their interest, without even trying to sort of follow any kind of rule-based order. So it's going to be quite chaotic if tomorrow Russia intensifies its attacks on Ukraine, or China sort of intensifies its hegemony in the South China Sea, and the countries trying to overrun other countries without a care of rule-based order in the world, and without respecting the autonomy of other countries. It's going to be quite chaotic as far as this precedence is concerned.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for all that information. I'm Moningal. Meanwhile, Venezuela's primary international airport, the Simon Bolivar International Airport in the capital city of Caracas, saw the number of inbound and outbound flights fall to far below the normal level after resuming operation amid fear from the January 3rd US military operations in the country. Now, on Tuesday, the second day after the reopening, the airport's flight information displaying screen showed that there were only 8 arrivals of international flights on Tuesday afternoon, and there would be 9 arrivals of international flights on Wednesday, which were much less than normal days, as the airport serves as the main gateway for international flights to and from Venezuela. US President Donald Trump and Colombian President Gustavo Petro held a phone call on Wednesday afternoon where they discussed relations between the two countries. Now, Trump abruptly changed his tone on Wednesday about his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro, saying they had exchanged a friendly phone call, and he had even invited the leader of the South American country to the White House. Trump said arrangements are being made for a meeting in Washington between himself and Petro, though he did not indicate when the meeting will take place. This is the first phone call between the two presidents since Trump said on Sunday that a US military operation focused on Colombia's government sounds good to him. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has repeated in recent days that he wants to gain control of Greenland. He argued that Washington must control the world's largest island to safeguard US security amid growing Chinese and Russian activity in the Arctic, and claims Denmark has not done enough to protect it. And now, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio would be meeting with Denmark next week, the world's largest island. But with a population of just 57,000 people, Greenland is not an independent member of NATO, but is covered by Denmark's membership of the Western Alliance.
Denmark. Why has the administration not taken Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
I'll be meeting with them next week.
But will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then.
Well, tensions have intensified since the White House said that the use of the U.S. military is always an option. It said the potential U.S. purchase of Greenland is being actively discussed by President Donald Trump and his national security team.
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region. And so that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like.
And U.S. President Donald Trump signed a presidential memorandum directing the withdrawal of the United States from 66 international organizations that no longer serve American interest. The memorandum orders all executive departments and agencies to cease participating in and funding 35 non-United Nations organizations and 31 UN entities. White House said this follows a review ordered earlier this year of all international intergovernmental organizations, conventions and treaties that the United States is a member of or party to, or that the United States funds or supports. And a U.S. immigration agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in a car in Minneapolis on Wednesday amid an immigration enforcement surge. U.S. authorities stated that the woman allegedly sought to ram Immigration and Custom Enforcement ICE officers with the vehicle. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey dismissed the government's claim and urged ICE officers to leave the city during a second day of mass immigration raids.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed.
While U.S. President Donald Trump said the Minneapolis shooting appeared to be an act of self-defense, claiming the woman aggressively resisted the officers and deliberately ran over an ICE agent, prompting the officer to shoot her. And still to come on DD India Newshour. Somnath Swabhiman Parv begins. Prime Minister shares the pictures from his previous visit, urges the visitors to do the same. Northeast India in grip of intense cold, orange alert issued. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Khurana, time now for a quick recap of the headlines. First, advanced estimates for financial year 2025-26 predict India's GDP to grow at 7.4%. Prime Minister Modi hails NDA-powered Reform Express. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls for global stability at first India-Weimar format meeting in France, eyes to boost ties with Europe. In a weeks-long chase across the Atlantic, US seizes 2 tankers as Trump lays out plan, says Venezuela will buy American goods under oil deal. Europe hit by cold wave and snow chaos, flights cancelled, trains halted, millions affected in Amsterdam, Brussels and other cities. And Australia seals 4-1 Ashes series win, beats England by 5 wickets in the final test in Sydney. And moving on, the historic Somnath temple will resonate with chants while the skies over the Arabian Sea will light up with a mega drone spectacle as the 3-day Somnath Swabhiman Parv begins. Sharing the pictures from his previous visit to Somnath on social media platform X, Prime Minister urged the visitors to share their pictures using the hashtag Somnath Swabhiman Parv, remembering the day in January 1026, Somnath faced its first ever attack. Prime Minister Modi wrote on X that the attack of 1026 and the subsequent attacks couldn't diminish the eternal faith of millions nor break the civilizational spirit that rebuilt Somnath time and again. He explained that Somnath Swabhiman Parv is about remembering the countless children of Bharat Mata who never compromised with their principles and ethos. However daunting the times were, their resolve remained unshaken and their commitment to our ethos unwavering. Well, Prime Minister Modi also shared some glimpses of a program held in Somnath on 31st of October 2001. This was the year when we marked 50 years since the rebuilt Somnath temple opened its door in 1951 in the presence of the then President Dr. Rajendra Prasad. The efforts of Sardar Patel, K.M. Munshi and several others were noteworthy. It was also when the 125th Jayanti of Sardar Patel was being marked. Now, the program of 2001 was attended by then Prime Minister Atal ji, Home Minister Advani ji and several other dignitaries. And External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met the Weimar format, marking a significant moment in India-Europe relations. This is the first time in the 35 years history of the Weimar format that a non-European country has been part of the discussion.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's Paris visit highlights India's growing diplomatic role. The Weimar format, which has been European only for 35 years, engaged with India in discussions for the first time. The meeting reflects India's growing strategic importance for Europe at a time of shifting global alignments and rising geopolitical challenges. Choosing Europe first to visit in this year, Dr. Jaishankar recalled France and Europe are the most important ties in global order.
Europe is such an important player in global politics. It's also necessary that India strengthen its relationship. I think we can bring more stability both into the international economy and global politics.
In a meeting earlier with French Foreign Minister was also fruitful. French Foreign Minister Noël Barrot said India's inclusion signals a deepening partnership between India and Europe. He also pointed out that the talks come at a crucial moment as a major agreement between India and Europe is currently under negotiation and is expected to be finalized in coming weeks.
In India, but also between the EU and India a few days ahead of an important summit where significant agreements will be signed. I look forward to these discussions today that aim at strengthening and furthering our relationship this year, where India will be chairing the BRICS and France will be chairing the G7.
Dr. Jaishankar said the discussion with Weimar format focused on strengthening India-European Union relations and on key global issues. He said the leaders exchanged views on the Indo-Pacific region and the ongoing Ukraine conflict. He also mentioned that among India's major international partnerships, ties with the European Union offer greatest potential for expansion, with several new areas of cooperation opening up across political, strategic and economic domains.
We may be located in different parts of the world, but despite that, perhaps even because of that, it is extremely useful for us to exchange views regularly and to share assessments.
India's participation in Weimar format highlights its expanding role in European strategic discussions, with both sides signaling stronger cooperation and tangible outcome in the near future. This meeting was a part of ongoing diplomatic dialogue, but was seen as an early engagement of the Year of Innovation. Discussions held in positive and constructive manner. This is Rohini Goswami in Paris for DD India.
And Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal visited the Hilti Group headquarters and met their CEO Jahangir Dungaji in Liechtenstein. They discussed a technology collaboration for safer, smarter infrastructure supported by expanding investments, rapid innovation and strong domestic capacity building. With the group's presence in India's construction sector for over 25 years now, discussions focused on advancing localization, increasing value addition and scaling global shipments from India aligned with the manufacturing and export growth objectives. Commerce Minister also chaired a business roundtable with leaders from prominent Liechtenstein companies. Piyush Goyal highlighted that the India-EFTA TEPA is not just a trade agreement, but a framework to promote investment, technology collaboration, skill development and resilient value chains. In a post on X, he said from precision engineering and clean energy to smart infrastructure, advanced materials, digital manufacturing and financial services, the opportunities for India and Liechtenstein to grow together are immense. Minister also invited Liechtenstein businesses to engage with India, explore opportunities offered by the $100 billion commitment to invest in India by EFTA nations and make it a long-term home for their ambitions, deepening our partnership and working together to unlock the full potential of India-Liechtenstein's economic cooperation. An ambassador of India to the USA, Vinay Mohan Quatra, met with US Speaker Mike Johnson at Capitol Hill. Quatra expressed a deep appreciation for his support for strengthening the bilateral relationship and thanked him for his solidarity with India's counter-terrorism efforts following the terrorist attack in Pahalgam in April 2025. Quatra also briefed him on key areas of our partnership, including defense and security, oil and gas trade, technology, including AI, as also efforts to work towards a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade deal. And on to some weather updates from across the globe. Entire North India is in a grip of bone-chilling cold wave. Indian Meteorological Department has issued orange alert for 5 states, including capital Delhi. Almost the entire North Indian plains are under alert for cold and fog conditions. Cold day alert has been issued for multiple states, with a severe cold day warning issued for East Rajasthan. Ground frost warning has been flagged for Assam, Meghalaya and Uttarakhand. Kashmir is also experiencing severe cold, with weather forecast of light rain or snowfall in higher reaches and near zero visibility caused by dense fog over the next few days. In the Kashmir Valley, the 40 days of the harshest winter, known as Chilai Kalan, are living up to their reputation. Meanwhile, southern states such as Tamil Nadu and Kerala may witness spells of rain accompanied by thunderstorms, with isolated heavy rainfall possible in some areas. And globally, snow, ice and fierce winds have battered Europe, disrupting daily life, grounding flights, stranding passengers, closing schools and cutting power as the continent struggles through its harshest and deadliest cold snap this winter. For a third day, severe winter weather caused a major transport disruption. Hundreds of flights were cancelled, with Paris and Amsterdam worst hit. At Schiphol, more than 1,000 travellers spent the night after 800 flights were grounded. Paris, Charles de Gaulle lost over 100 flights and 7 people have died in weather-related accidents. Well, the freeze has also hit vulnerable groups hard. Homeless people in Paris struggled against the cold. Schools in Scotland stayed shut and authorities warned rural areas could be cut off. Hungary saw its heaviest snow in 15 years with temperatures at minus 20 degrees centigrade, while Australia plunged to minus 24 degrees centigrade. Eurostar services were again disrupted. In the Balkans, floods and snow damaged homes in Kosovo and Montenegro. Thousands in Serbia lost power, while Albania's port city of Durrës saw 200 residents flee torrential rain. Nordic countries also faced chaos, with trams halted in Gothenburg and warnings of power cuts. At Orly Airport, de-icing and runway clearing continued as snowstorms battered northern and western France. Around 40 flights were cancelled on Wednesday morning while crews worked to clear ice from the roads. While on the other hand, Australia's south sweltered through a brutal heat wave on Wednesday that delivered temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius, triggering health warnings, straining power grids and causing bushfires to flare. Meteorologists said the conditions were at their worst in 6 years. The nation's Weather Bureau issued severe or extreme heat warnings for the states of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania. It also warned of extreme fire danger across Victoria and South Australia. In Victoria, where temperatures reached up to 44 degrees Celsius and 41 degrees Celsius in the state capital, Melbourne, authorities advised residents to stay indoors and keep hydrated. And Sri Lanka's Department of Meteorology has warned of worsening weather as the depression over the Bay of Bengal moves closer to the island, raising concerns over heavy rain, strong winds and possible disruptions. Forecasters say the system is likely to intensify into a deep depression and is expected to move west to northwest towards Sri Lanka's eastern coast within 24 hours. Cloudy conditions with showers or thunder showers are forecast across most parts of the country. Heavy rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters is expected in the eastern and Ua provinces, while winds of 50 to 60 kilometers per hour may affect several areas, including the Central Hills and Western districts. And vibrant Gujarat today stands as one of India's most influential global business summits. What began as a state-level investment initiative has grown into a powerful platform connecting Gujarat with the world. Here's a look at how it all began and how far it has come. Vibrant Gujarat was conceptualized in 2003 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. The idea was to showcase Gujarat's strengths and attract investment. The early editions in 2003 and 2005 focused on ease of doing business. By 2007, Vibrant Gujarat was successfully positioning the state as a preferred investment destination, drawing participation from leading Indian and global companies.
And talking about brand Gujarat for the first time. As a result of this branding exercise that was commenced, I think the first year was 2003. And it used to happen once in 2 years. It involves sending out delegations led by industry leaders all over the world. And when industry goes and talks to industry in other areas, they have the higher credibility than the promotional tours that were being done there. So this was a novelty. Gujarat was the first. Gujarat showed the way. Gujarat demonstrated that it actually led to investments, job creation and business development, and therefore then it was followed by all the other states in India.
The 2009 edition marked a major turning point as Gujarat emerged as one of the most preferred investment destinations in the country. The summit gained international attention with growing participation from foreign governments, global CEOs and financial institutions. By 2011, Vibrant Gujarat had transformed into a platform showcasing Gujarat as the growth engine of India, highlighting industrialization, urban development and innovation. The journey continues. 2013, Gujarat positioned itself as a global business hub. 2015, the summit was themed Springboard for Global Ambitions. 2017, focus shifted to connecting India to the world through trade, investment and technology. 2019, shaping a new India. 2024 positioned Gujarat as a gateway to the future. With continued participation from world leaders, multinational corporations, startups and policymakers, Vibrant Gujarat continues to strengthen Gujarat's role in India's journey towards a developed nation by 2047. Meghna Dev's report, Ahmedabad. And in some business news now, oil prices fell on Wednesday following US President Donald Trump's deal to import up to $2 billion worth of Venezuelan crude, while major stock indexes ended mostly lower, with US financial and defense shares declining. On Wall Street, the Dow eased along with the S&P 500, but the Nasdaq finished higher. Stock indexes around the world had hit record highs this week, even after the US intervention in Venezuela. European stocks snapped a run of record closes as investors paused to digest the latest US-Venezuela developments and assessed economic data. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. Australia sealed 4-1 Ashes series victory after beating England by 5 wickets in the 5th and final test at the Sydney Cricket Ground on Thursday. Earlier, England resumed day 5 at 302 for 8, leading by 119 runs and were bowled out for 342, setting Australia a target of 160. Australia chased down the target in 31.2 overs after England triggered a scare with a flurry of wickets, allowing 39-year-old Usman Khawaja to retire from Test cricket with a win. Australia secured the Ashes by taking the first 3 tests, while England managed a consolation victory in the 4th test at Melbourne to avoid a series whitewash. And Indian cricketers Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul and coach Gautam Gambhir arrived in Vadodara for ODI series against New Zealand. The host team is set to play a 3-match series against the Black Caps in the format. The first match will be played on January 11th at the BCA Stadium, Vadodara. Kohli arrived in the city of Gujarat on Wednesday. Shubman Gill returns to the India ODI setup as the captain, while Shreyas Iyer, who was injured, also made his return to the squad. Wicketkeeper batter Rishabh Pant also made his comeback in the white ball format. And India under-19 team thrashed South Africa by 233 runs in the 3rd Youth ODI to sweep the 3-match series on Wednesday. Put into bat, stand-in skipper Suryavanshi once again went on a 6-hitting spree to hammer his 100 in his just 63 balls. He finished with 10 maximums and 9 boundaries in a fluent 74-ball 127. The 14-year-old from Bihar was ably supported by Aaron George, who compiled 118 of 106 balls as the duo laid the platform for a massive total with a 227-run opening stand. India piled up a mammoth 393 for 7, a target that proved well beyond South Africa, which was bowled out for 160 in 35 overs. Both teams now head into the Under-19 World Cup, which starts on 15th of January in Zimbabwe and Namibia. An Indian shuttler Lakshya Sen suffered a shocking second-round match against Hong Kong's Lee Cheuk in Malaysia Open in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday. Lakshya lost the match in straight sets 20-22, 15-21. The opening game turned on Lakshya letting a strong lead slip, failing to capitalize on Lee's early struggles in the corners as the Hong Kong shuttler mounted a composed comeback. The second was more one-sided, with Lee's endurance proving decisive and Lakshya unable to find a response. After Ayush Shetty's exit earlier, Lakshya's defeat compounds a disappointing start for India at this stage of the tournament. Sen will now head into India Open starting on January 13th. And holders Barcelona thrashed Athletic Club 5-0 to reach the Spanish Super Cup final in Saudi Arabia. The 15-time winners scored 4 goals in 16 minutes to put the game beyond doubt at half-time. Barcelona became the first team in history to score for first half goals in a Spanish Super Cup semi-final. Barcelona comfortably remained in control to make it 9 consecutive victories in all competitions, and Hansi Flick's side will face either Atletico Madrid or 13-time winners Real Madrid, who meet on Thursday. The final will take place on Sunday in Jeddah after Saudi Arabia and the Spanish Football Federation extended a deal to play the tournament in the country until 2029. And Kane Russell struck a hat-trick on as HIL Governing Council defeated Shrachi Bengal Tigers 6-3 in a high-scoring Hockey India League clash in Chennai on Wednesday. Shrachi Bengal Tigers took the lead after captain Jugraj Singh converted a penalty stroke, but Governing Council turned the game on its head with 2 quick goals. In the 38th minute, Governing Council secured a 3-goal advantage. However, Shrachi Bengal Tigers refused to back down, scoring 2 quick goals in the 40th minute to reduce the deficit. But James Alvarez showcased brilliant skill to get past Tigers' back line and tap the ball into the empty net as Governing Council won the encounter 6-3. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.